Imagine a country where people starved in wooden barracks, while engineers under armed guards built the largest warship the world had ever seen. It was called Sovetsky Soyuz, Soviet Union, a 65,000-ton floating fortress that never floated. This is not just a story about steel and guns. It's about how ideology can be heavier than armor, and how a nation, desperate to be great, tried to buy its way into history, one rivet at a time. In 1906, Britain launched HMS Dreadnought and instantly erased every other battleship on Earth. She was bigger, faster, heavier, and more modern than anything afloat. And her name became a new noun, Dreadnought, the one that fears nothing. Soon, every self-respecting empire raced to build one. Possessing dreadnoughts became proof that you mattered in global politics. A battleship wasn't just a weapon. It was an argument. Its tonnage said, we can afford this. Its armor said, we can make this. Its guns said, and we're not afraid to use it. By 1914, the oceans were full of these giants, floating fortresses of ego. Britain ruled with 29 dreadnoughts, Germany trailed closely, America and Japan joined the club. Each new class was heavier, faster, more expensive. The logic was simple: whoever stopped building first, lost. Then came the Great War. Millions dead, empires gone, and economies shattered. When it was over, even admirals asked, what was all this for? So in 1922, the world's major powers signed the Washington Naval Treaty, a rare moment when humanity said, let's stop before we bankrupt ourselves again. Battleships were capped at 35,000 tons and 406mm guns. It worked for about 10 years. In the 1930s, the old hunger returned. Germany rearmed, Japan tore up its signature, Italy dreamed of a Mediterranean empire, and Britain built the King George V. The numbers were absurd: 250 meters long, 100 megawatts of power, crews the size of small towns. Each ship was a city, armored, armed, and terrifyingly fragile. But at least those nations had the industries to build them. The Soviet Union didn't. It had ideology, ambition, and fear, three materials stronger than steel, but much worse for shipbuilding. The USSR's fleet after the Civil War was a floating museum. A few Tsarist ships renamed after revolutions and Paris communes. Stalin wanted more than submarines. He wanted symbols. In his logic, a great power must be seen to be great. His government declared that a socialist ocean fleet would show the world that workers could build what kings once commanded. The result was the Big Fleet program, planned in 1938, revised in 1940, and, if taken seriously, completely insane. The plan: 15 battleships. The reality: even one would have bankrupted a superpower. The lead ship, Sovetsky Soyuz, was designed to displace 65,000 tons. 9 406mm guns, the largest ever attempted in Europe. Armor so thick that Soviet steel mills literally couldn't roll it. Leningrad began construction in 1939. Nikolaev started another called Sovetskaya Ukraina. In the Arctic town of Molotovsk, prisoners hacked permafrost to build 2 more shipyards from scratch. 9,000 people died building a dockyard, not a ship. The Soviets didn't have the industrial tools to make the turbines, so they ordered them from Switzerland. They didn't have the machines to bore the guns, so they asked Germany. Yes, Nazi Germany built parts of Stalin's navy. When the war began in 1941, the USSR had 3 half-built hulls, 1 prototype gun, and several Swiss crates sitting in snow. The price so far? 670 million rubles. Enough for 3,300 T-34 tanks. Enough to change the war that actually happened. And while Soviet engineers tightened bolts, history moved on. May 1941. Bismarck, the pride of Germany, sunk by biplanes from a carrier. The world's most advanced battleship destroyed by wood and canvas wings. In Italy, British torpedo planes wrecked the Littorio class at Taranto, the trial run for Pearl Harbor. In Japan, Yamato and Musashi became the final act. 73,000 tons of armor, 9 guns the size of trees, erased by aircraft, 227 American planes attacked. 10 torpedoes, 13 bombs later, 1 mushroom cloud. For each battleship lost, aviation gained altitude. The sea belonged to air power now. But Moscow hadn't read the epilogue. After the war, the country was in ruins. Tens of millions dead. Crops failed, the people starved. And yet, the plans continued. Project 24, an 81,000-ton behemoth. Bigger than Yamato, twice as powerful on paper. It would carry 9 guns of 406 millimeters, with a power plant of 280,000 horsepower. None of it existed. Soviet foundries couldn't cast the armor, couldn't machine the shafts, couldn't build the dry dock. But the blueprints were beautiful. The drawings looked like propaganda posters. Sleek lines, red flags, endless pride. A warship as a sculpture of ideology. Then Stalin died. Beria, his ruthless lieutenant, was many things, but not romantic. He looked at the numbers, at the starving villages, at the obsolete plans, and signed a single order: all battleship projects terminated. Just like that, the era ended. No launches, no christenings, no heroic sea trials. The invincible fleet of the future died in its crib. The Sovetsky Soyuz never fired a shot, never sailed, never sank. Yet it tells us everything about power. The battleship was a mirror of its age. An age that believed problems could be solved by throwing steel at them. Bigger guns, thicker armor, stronger leaders. But there's always a weight limit. Empires, like ships, capsize when they grow too heavy for their own keels. The Soviet Union would keep repeating that mistake. From giant rockets to 5-year plans to nuclear submarines no one needed. In the end, the true lesson of Sovetsky Soyuz isn't about steel. It's about ego, how a state can drown in its own grandeur. If you enjoy history that shows how ambition meets physics, consider subscribing to Chronic, where we explore the machines, ideas, and empires that were too big to float.